Hi, Dave here, and today we're going to check out the work of Wangjie Li. He is a senior concept artist based in San Francisco, USA. He actually doesn't feel like a designer to me based on his ArtStation portfolio, just because his volume of work right here is mostly on, or it leans more towards an illustrative kind of side, where he's trying to show off his style more than his design, and he does more like figures and people. I feel like more of them are actually studies than actual like illustrations like these ones right here. And he does do a few keyframes, so that's pretty cool. Like, he does have a lean, I guess, on narrative types of artwork where you kind of tell a story, but I think his biggest thing that really sets him apart is his, like, the quality of his artwork is just so superb. And his figures are very kind of realistic. His style mostly goes with his like painting technique or illustrative technique, right? His figures are definitely very kind of realistic, so he doesn't like push the anatomy too much. He kind of leaves it to a very kind of realistic level. So yeah. Wow, fuck. I'm actually not sure how he approaches his work in general, because he only has like 2 videos on his YouTube channel. I will be linking that in the description below. But I actually used to think he would be more focused on the shapes, but he does actually have a decent kind of drafting skill. Like, he's pretty good at drawing, and you can actually see in his portfolio he does have like a lot of charcoal-esque kind of sketches, and it's very, very accurate. So I feel like he started off drawing in the beginning, and then he kind of learned painting over that drafting kind of skill. And a lot of his work involves like a lot of texture, and I do like the impressionistic side of it. Like, it's so rich, and it's not super refined in many ways, but refined in some way. Like, he does obviously focus on the figure more, and obviously in the face, and if you look at this face, it's so fine. It's very realistic, right? And it's almost kind of intimidating. And even this one, it's not like super refined in terms of the painting. I mean, you can see like a lot of the brushstrokes, but the edges are very clear, and the proportions are very, very realistic. So that's pretty cool. And again, a lot of texture. Maybe he does use like a photo in the beginning to kind of start off the painting, but yeah, it's just fuck, right? Now, I probably wouldn't go as far as him in terms of, obviously these are studies, so he may have to change things when he's actually doing more illustrative types of work, but it's still pretty impressive seeing this kind of accuracy in his work. And again, he doesn't have to go super sharp, right? He just has to kind of figure out the silhouette, and all you really have to do is kind of just get the right proportions, right? And invest in that early stage of kind of plotting the main shapes, I guess, or the kind of edges, the silhouette. And then he does kind of just build on top of that with a more refined kind of painting style, especially with like the skin and obviously usually the face, because obviously that's where the eye goes first, right? When kind of seeing characters. And in the background, you can see this richness in the in terms of the texture, right? So I'm not sure exactly how he achieves that, but his work does feel very, very kind of fine art-ish, right? It reminds me a bit of Jeff Simpson. I did an art review of his work before. Obviously, right? And maybe he does use like a mixer brush. I mean, I'm guessing to achieve this kind of softness, but it's pretty interesting seeing this kind of thing. And again, he does kind of mix the soft thing. I mean, I guess because he focuses on characters and he does show off a lot of the skin, maybe he likes to complement that kind of smoothness with like a more textured kind of look. So maybe, I don't know if it's deliberate or if it's just kind of a random kind of thing, but it does make it more impactful. And some of his work actually feels like watercolor. Oh, there's another artist, a chick, Amber Ye. I did an art review of her work also, and she does have also a fine art kind of lean in her art, in her kind of in her art. Fuck. And here you can actually see the kind of initial sketch, right? Where he laid out the edge of the thigh and the legs. And obviously he does focus more on the face. And what's so cool is not everything has to be refined. And I always see this in, concept art usually, where not everything has to actually be super refined. And it's very helpful for people like me, and maybe for people like you, if you're kind of so pressured to kind of make everything look top tier. You don't really have to go that far. You just have to focus maybe on that specific 10 or 20% of the painting. Usually the focal point, right? And everything else can be just kind of impressionistic or more impressionistic and suggested, right? And you can be more playful, and it does help make it more actually artsy, right? And that's the fun about 2D art. You can kind of pull back, because in 3D everything kind of looks even, because it's meant to be viewed in a 3D kind of way, right? And you're not seeing it in this kind of one view, in one static view. And he does have like a lot of these. I won't show all of them because some of them are actually kind of not safe for work, because fuck. So I do recommend you actually check out his ArtStation portfolio. And he does like a lot of grayscale stuff, so maybe that helps him. Obviously it helps save time, not having to use color. And look at this. I mean, you can see like a lot of the brushstrokes, and it's not even a lot. It's very heavy on the silhouette. He does focus on the shape, but what's very impressive about this thing is that his faces are pretty accurate. And whenever I kind of do faces, sometimes they look kind of stylized in the end, just because I can't. Well, it's not that I can't, it's just maybe I'm too impatient with being observational that I kind of just, I just fuck it, I just kind of just skip that patience part. So I do like the accuracy in his faces a lot, and it's very realistic. Even at this kind of stage, it's very, very accurate. And it's pretty impressive seeing this. And just the confidence, right? You can even see the brush spacing right here. And it does have its own texture in a way, so it kind of complements the actual kind of solidness of this black kind of silhouette, almost like an ink kind of brushstroke, right? I mean, look at that. It's very gestural, very impressionistic. But again, the face, even though it's not fully defined, not fully sketched out, the proportions are just so realistic. It's way more realistic than, say, the way he does like the hands and the feet and such. So I guess his studies, I guess his kind of portrait studies really do help him kind of get that sense of realness whenever he does his own kind of face. I'm not sure if he did have a reference for this one, but this one actually reminds me of a work by Greg Rutkowski, another awesome concept artist. He did have kind of a figure painting as well, not in grayscale, but it's kind of a black and gold kind of painting of this chick, almost like a James Bond kind of chick. Now for this one, Mr. Li here is pretty refined with the skin, like it's a bit too soft. I mean, I'm not saying it as a bad thing, but it's a bit refined, right? And as you can see, the face is way, way more refined. I mean, shit, it looks like an actual photo, right? Obviously, he does. He does simplify everything else, right? And he does focus more on the face, and he just kind of leaves it as there, right? Fuck. Now, obviously, this is a study. He does have a few illustrations, so it's going to be a bit different. But with this illustration kind of pieces, you can still see the brushstrokes in some areas, so that's kind of cool to see. And again, look at the kind of splatter kind of texture here. It looks so rich, right? Almost like an oil painting. I believe he did use a mixer brush here, I'm guessing. And again, he's not afraid to show off his brushstrokes. Obviously, he goes way more into not detail, but he does refine the face a bit more. And achieving the softness in the face is pretty hard, especially with the bottom of the chin or the jaw. Like, how do you, for me, I would draw like a line, but like, how do you create that edge or suggest an edge without having to draw a line, right? So, because it's pretty soft, right? It's not just a sharp kind of thing. So, it's pretty impressive. And again, he doesn't, he leaves everything else to like a shape kind of form. And again, it's very impressionistic. And again, and again, and again. I keep saying that, fuck. Oh! Look at that. Oh, it's so rich. right? And I do think it's helpful to use a photo in the beginning to kind of just help establish a color palette. Or I did show this technique in a few of my videos where I would use the pattern stamp tool, and I would use a texture or a pattern from a photo, and then I would use that to kind of start off a painting. I would suggest you check out the Paint With Me series or the Speed Paint With Me series or playlist, and you can see me use that technique sometimes, right? The face is super refined, very soft, very realistic, and I believe this is a study. And look at the amount of variety in its work, the hue variety, right? It's not just like the texture and shit, it's the, if you focus on the hand, you can see the blues, the kind of cyan blues coming from this kind of dress. You can see the purples, the pinks, the reds. It's so rich, right? I'm not sure if he uses kind of the color dynamics kind of option, but the kind of apply per tip kind of option when using the brush. I feel like he... Fuck it, I have no idea. But yeah. Nice step by step. Very chaotic in the beginning. This one actually feels like an actual impressionistic painting, right? Like the classical types of impressionistic paintings, right? You don't actually have to define anything at all. But obviously, I also personally want to push things a bit further in some areas, right? Now, maybe not to this extent, but it's still like seeing this kind of chaos, right? Where not everything is fully defined, but I do want to practice this kind of refinement, right? And not just be, because I feel like whenever I say impressionistic, I feel like I'm making an excuse to not learn how to refine things further. You know, I mean, I do know I have a lean, I do like the kind of chaotic look, but I feel like I'm procrastinating on learning the skill of refining things, right? So, right? And but again, it doesn't have to be like a full thing or the full painting. It just has to be like a specific part. I mean, look at the way he simplified this dress right here, right? It's very chaotic. It's hard to actually see the folds. Lots of flat brush use here. Reminds me of the work of what's his name? Oh yeah, Victor Hugo Armatiuk. I believe he's Brazilian. Yeah, Victor Hugo Armatiuk. I did an art review of his work also before, so you can check it out. He does love the kind of flat brush kind of thing, and again, very kind of solid, impressionistic, very rich. Obviously, everything is kind of in the warm tone. I'm guessing he did have a reference. This is probably some kind of study. This one actually more of I believe this is a fan art piece of StarCraft. You can see he simplifies things with the feet more, and because it's obviously not the main focus, right? A bit more refined with the face. It looks very soft, almost like an actual photo. Maybe some photo bashing with this kind of space station kind of thing, with some paint overs. The background or this area right here, the kind of surrounding areas, reminds me of the work of James Pack. Like the style of it feels like a James Pack kind of painting. But yeah, this is actually more of his illustration kind of style. So yeah, you can still see the kind of impressionistic stuff in the edges, and he'll often pick like one area to refine more. And it actually looks pretty good, even if it's impressionistic or very kind of a vague, well, not vague, but his more, I keep saying impressionistic. Is there another word for impressionistic? Fuck. Oh, he does have like a YouTube video for this one, or of this specific piece. And it did start off with a line sketch, kind of laying out the proportions of this lady here. And then he did use the color dynamics with the apply per tip option on to kind of work on the shadows, and it helps kind of establish a nice base to paint off of, or to paint off from. And just turning on the color dynamics helps to add some hue variety, right? And it adds more oomph to the painting, because sometimes if you're kind of a beginner artist, I'm sure your paintings often look kind of muddy, right? So just by turning on that color dynamics option in the brush settings in Photoshop, it's going to make your paintings look way more rich and interesting, right? Very warm here, and then everything else is kind of cool. The hair and this kind of dress. The body's obviously warmer, right? And again, lots of hue variety here. Oof, hue variety. A study of a kind of church scene. Look at the richness of this bad boy, right? Shit. I'm not sure if he painted the background. Maybe he did use a photo, but it looks so rich. There's hardly any kind of smooth space. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing. Because reminds me a bit of shit, what's his name? Victor Clow. I did an art review of his work also. But obviously Wangjie Li is way more impressionistic, right? And again, its portfolio is usually like a bunch of studies. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I should do more studies because but again, I watched this video by the Josh guy. The what's his name? Josh? Fuck. His name starts, or his YouTube name starts with an I. Fuck. E or I, yada yada yada, Josh. He's kind of a big YouTube kind of artist. He does like a lot of figure, like chicks, babes. And yeah, he did mention in one of his videos that you should work on your imaginative drawing skill, and because it's kind of a muscle in itself, and if you keep doing studies, it's not going to it can help, but you have to spend time doing more imaginative stuff. So I guess I should try to find that balance, right? Doing studies with reference photos, as well as doing more imaginative stuff without reference, because that's kind of the goal anyway. I think most of us have that goal. I want to be able to paint like my own kind of thing in this level. Well, not in this level, but something with this feeling from my own imagination. That's kind of where I want to head towards, I guess. But obviously it's going to take like a lot of studies as well. So, oh, this is one of his illustrations. I mean, you can see like a lot of his brushstrokes here, right, in the edges, and obviously he goes, or he brings it to a more refined level when it comes to like the face and maybe a bit of the arm here and the torso. But it's nice seeing the brushstrokes in a painting. Not a lot of texture, because obviously this could be some kind of wallpaper art or maybe a screensaver kind of thing. But it's pretty impressive. It actually looks almost like a 3D kind of thing. Maybe he did use 3D, I'm not sure, but God, I mean, look at how he did this kind of highlight here with a brushstroke, with like one brushstroke with some pen pressure, right? Shit. It's a bit cleaner, I guess, compared to his more impressionistic stuff, because obviously it's an illustration. But it's nice seeing the kind of his skill kind of variation, and I actually like seeing this and like the portfolio of artists, seeing the sketches, because sometimes it's kind of intimidating seeing stuff like this, like the finished kind of artwork. But if the artist kind of shows off the sketches, right, it makes it more human, like it's more relatable. Now obviously his sketches are way better than mine, but it's nice seeing it, the ideation. And again, with these sketches, they're not necessarily focused on the design, right? It's more focused on the illustration. So he does have a lean, less design and more kind of illustration, more storytelling, I guess. Damn. Oh shit. Okay, if you check out his portfolio, let's go back. He does have like a lot of charcoal kind of drawings, right? And so maybe that actually helps him do stuff like this, right? Like he just knows how to paint or draw figures and make it look good, because he does like a lot of or he studies a lot of good looking figures, right? Okay. But again, it's finding the right balance, studying as well as creating your own shit like these sketches. It's it's a challenge, right? So more sketches. Now this one actually feels more like me, except the face here looks fairly pretty. But I like the roughness of it. It's very realistic, and it shows you the grunt work, the not so pretty kind of side, where you're just kind of jotting down the idea. And sometimes I have to remind myself to separate the pretty stuff, the pretty kind of side of art, with the more idea side, because sometimes you should be able to phase out your work. Like this time should be more about the idea, and then once you've got that established, then you can focus in on trying to make it more pretty and more refined, right? So it doesn't have to be pretty in the beginning, you know. I do believe he did pick the sketch and then refined it. Oh fuck. Oh, now this one is more sci-fi, right? A bit of mech design here, mech parts. Nice. This kind of sci-fi thing here in the background actually reminds me of the work of Li Xingyan or Lixinian or Li Xingyan. Again, I did an art review of his work also. It's not super clean. It's actually very impressionistic, so that's kind of nice. He does smoothen things a bit here in the leg, in the face, and the skin. I'm not sure how he did the fabric though. Maybe he painted it, or a photo. It could be 3D. Fuck. Oh, Unana. What's my name? It almost looks like an oil painting. Lots of mixer brush use. Very artsy. Reminds me of Ambrier again. And again, the face is a bit more refined. And even the hands here, it's so kind of just vague. And it's just an impression essentially. Even the folds. But look at the amount of variety here. The purples, the blues. Jeez. Oh, I like the kind of sharp edge here. Very strong contrast separating this figure or her body from the actual kind of window, I guess. And this dash of light in the hair. And he also does like decent hair. Like, how do you paint hair, you know? Because I still need to work on like my figures and shit. So when people kind of paint in hair, and like the way people kind of break down the hair it's just kind of impressive to me, because it feels like it's its own kind of thing, right? And it's very kind of fluid, and it depends, or it looks so different when it kind of hits light. So how do you like illustrate the strands and shit? And they usually go in chunks, so how do you do that? Or how do you illustrate that? Again, very artsy, very almost like an actual oil painting. But it's nice seeing how he can capture a kind of mood, a feeling, right? Obviously he does refine the face here, and with this chick, even the glasses look super sharp. Oh, so bright, so warm. A bit of cools on the top. It's mostly warm in the bottom. It does define the hand, at least the silhouettes, like the main parts, but it's not as refined as, say, the face, and even the eye is way more refined. Even the dress, there's hardly any folds here that are actually illustrated. It's just like one big silhouette. But it really helps to kind of focus in on the face. I mean, look at the amount, if you kind of zoom out, look at the amount of contrast there. Like, you immediately look at the face, because it's so kind of dark compared to the background and the actual kind of dress. Wow. Oh, even the hat does have like cools. Ooh, in the shadow part, damn. And the part in shadow actually has warms. So that's kind of interesting, because usually when you do shadows, right, it's usually on the cool side, but for this painting, it's warm. At least in the bottom part of the hat. So, on this side, on the top part, it's obviously kind of cool. Some more studies, I believe. Getting the gist of something. And, sorry, he's not like Li Xingyan or Lixinian or Li Xingyan, where he does have like a lot of studies and concept art, or like design, illustration stuff at the same time. Wangjie Li posts more of his studies than his actual kind of illustration stuff. So that's kind of interesting. So maybe if there's one thing he wants to show off to the world is his kind of technique or his painting style. Like he can communicate this kind of mood. So I think that's what he wants to do more of, like mood paintings and characters, usually female chicks, right? And I think what really hooked me to his work is these sorts of paintings, these specific ones. I believe they're East Asian, because I can't tell if they're Korean, Japanese, or Chinese. But look at how we did the hair here. It's so like pretty, lots of texture. Obviously coming off of the brush, right? Seeing the kind of grittiness of it. And I'm guessing he did sharpen the painting in the end, like after he's done painting. And it looks so classical, especially with how he paints the face. It's so smooth, like an oil painting. And then everywhere else, aside from the focal point, he does bring out that impressionistic side, very heavy on the brush strokes. You know what? The face isn't actually the focal point. To me, it's actually more of the hair, because there's more contrast. But I guess because people will tend to look at the face anyway, he did refine it more. Mixer brush. Oh, look at that. Look at this shadows here, right? It's so realistic. Lots of texture. It's a canvas kind of texture. I've seen this brush used often, and it just looks so oily. And I love seeing the kind of canvas texture. And I'm not sure if it's from the brush or maybe it's he did start off with a photo of a canvas and then painted over it. Hard to say, but it does look like an actual oil painting. And look at how he simplified the hair design here, with like the ornaments and the actual kind of hair. Doesn't have to be as smooth as the actual face. Same with the dress. Ah, it's so pretty. Ooh, look at the richness of it. Damn. Right? So yeah, his work feels more like it's communicating some kind of scene or mood, right? Oh yeah, so maybe that's why he also included a few like keyframe stuff, because maybe he's just more in tune with that kind of side, that kind of narrative story, mood, kind of intuition thing. Very smooth with the skin and very rough everywhere else. You can see some mixer brush here, the edge. Makes it look extra artsy, right? Nice complementary thing going on, the purple and the green. Whoa. And the nice accent of red, right? Ugh, look at that. Jesus. And I'm glad he does post the actual like high resolution paintings or high resolution images, because you can just see the richness of it, right? Oh, look at that. Even this looks cool as an abstract painting, right? Oh, look at that. So sexy. Damn. Oh, look at the confidence. He's so ballsy. Same kind of style. Now this one obviously differs in terms of subject matter, but it does have the same kind of feeling. Very impressionistic, very realistic, right? Especially when it comes to the actual kind of figure, especially with the face. And it's so artsy, so moody. An example of his charcoal-esque kind of drawings, and he applies the same kind of technique, because essentially charcoal types of drawings are like paintings anyway, because they're heavily focused on like shapes and values as opposed to actual kind of line work. Lots of mixer brush use here, emulating the blending stuff, the blending stump, or whenever you kind of use your finger to blend things when using charcoal, and it looks pretty cool. And again, he does refine the face a bit more, a very, very realistic way of doing it. Lots of like softness there, right? This one's actually more of a keyframe. Oh, reminds me a bit of Craig Mullins. But I don't see like a lot of the circle brush use here, so yeah. This is actually an example of some of his keyframes. they're actually kind of simple compared to his actual paintings, but they feel more like painted storyboards, right? Very, very interesting. Very heavy on the shapes. I mean, he just knows how to paint like figures. He's done them so much that he can essentially just kind of jot them down in a kind of sketch form, right? Reminds me of Li Xingyan again, or Li Xingyan. I think they have the same kind of a similar kind of skill level. Another example of his study here, it's kind of a charcoal-esque kind of thing, where it's part drawing, at least in the beginning, and then he does focus more on the values and just blending things, right? So at some point, it stops being a drawing and more of a painting, right? But he doesn't go overboard. For this one, you can actually see the drawing, right? And then you can see kind of the underpainting, where it's not really a painting, it's just like a stroke of gray, or like one value. So there's hardly any value variation in the face, so you can actually see more of the drawing. A bit more blending in the back and the boob. The panty here is kind of just suggested. Let's move on. Ooh, I do notice a lot of artists whenever they use or do the kind of charcoal style kind of drawing or study or paintings, they do have the pen pressure on, where it kind of squiggles, you know, around, and it kind of helps to add that kind of chaotic. It's almost as if it emulates how you would sketch with a charcoal stick, where you can see like the flat side of it. So in Photoshop, what you could do is use a flat brush, but have the pen pressure on in the shape dynamics kind of setting, to kind of make the brush kind of squiggle around as you kind of paint. And I think that helps to kind of create this kind of chaotic kind of or you could just use like initial direction, or with the, oh, not initial direction, I'm sorry, maybe pen tilt to be more accurate, but I feel like having it on pen pressure is going to be way more lively, and yeah, less of a drawing, more of a painting. Lots of values here. Look at that face, it's so like real, and the lighting is coming from the bottom. Fuck. Lots of shit. Pretty cool stuff. I love the texture in the hair. It's almost just one. It's almost like, it's not almost. It's just a silhouette, essentially. And he did focus more on the face because reasons. Oh, you can see more of the line drawing here, where he did lay out the figure, the legs, the arms, right? The hair is kind of chaotic here. Oh, this one actually feels like a keyframe, right? Obviously, these guys are kind of checking her out, and obviously kind of making her uncomfortable. So, I mean, she is kind of undressing in front of them, so why? But again, she's very close to the actual kind of guns, so she's kind of safe, I guess. But here you can actually see his drafting skill, his drawing skills. So he's not just a painter; he's actually a good kind of sketching, drawing kind of artist. Maybe he did use some 3D for the background, or maybe he did not. It feels like he just kind of did it manually here. But look at that face, it's so realistic. Even the expression, like you can see the wrinkle in the forehead, right? Well, not the forehead, but between the eyes, so you can tell she's kind of what the fuck, bro? Awesome. Here you can actually see more of the drawing here. It's more contour drawing than actual kind of like cross hatching and shit. And look at that hand, very simplified. It's just focusing on the contour, but it feels pretty accurate to me. And then in the face, he did kind of render it a bit more, right? The hair looks very kind of vague, but the face is a bit more rendered, especially with the eyes, right? And again, for this kind of thing, it's not exactly super stylized. It still falls on the realistic kind of side. So maybe this is the type of work he does for his more concept art stuff. Because he did say in his portfolio he is a senior concept artist. So maybe this is the actual kind of work he does in his studio, whatever. The face is rendered. Oh, sorry for hitting the mic there. So artsy again. The eyes are way more rendered. Oh, here you can actually see the drawing more. In the hand? Oh, it's so pretty. A bit of shading. Right? Very heavy on the contour. Especially in this whole bottom half. And the face is way more rendered. Obviously I'm guessing he did use some reference here. It's more of a study than an actual kind of concept. But it looks pretty awesome, right? Eventually, once you do like a lot of studies, you kind of just develop this visual library. Or you just develop this kind of sixth sense, I guess, when drawing figures. If you do enough of them, or if you do enough of like studies of them, you can just kind of get the gist of it, right? And wing it. More of a keyframe kind of thing. Very, very gestural and very sketchy. But the values are right. It's obviously in the foggy kind of environment. It's a war scene. But yeah. Samurai? I think. Keyframe. 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 This one I believe is one of his older pieces, but it still looks awesome. The face is obviously way more rendered. The way he painted the trees though, or this kind of tree thing, reminds me of John Park a bit. But yeah, he did paint this chick on its own layer. You can see the kind of clear edge here, so a bit of layer management helps. He doesn't have like a lot of keyframes. A lot of his portfolio is just like a bunch, like most of it is a bunch of like studies and shit. So that's it for this video, or this art review of Wangjie Li's work. So if you're kind of the impressionistic kind of artist, I do recommend you check out his work. And check out these ones especially, and zoom in. And I think you'll actually be inspired to explore more of that impressionistic kind of chaotic side. Even this one is pretty cool. And shit, what else do I have to say? You don't have to go as far as him, because he does go to a more realistic level when it comes to his figures. So don't be so intimidated, because I know I am kind of slightly intimidated, and it's obviously going to take way more time if you're trying to reach a more realistic kind of look. But usually you don't have to. But if you're trying to improve the quality of your work, I do recommend you check out Wangjie Li's work. He does have a website. I'll link it in the description below. And I do recommend you watch 2 of his videos on YouTube, so you can actually see his drawing, painting process. And yeah, thank you for watching. Keep drawing, keep painting, and stay free.